What's up, Pokemon trainers? As you might know, each year the Pokemon Company rotates a few trading card game expansions in order to make the game healthier and to let new and lesser played decks have a chance to shine. This year, that rotation will be Primal Clash-on. This means that the previous XY sets before Primal Clash, including the XY base set, Flash Fire, Furious Fists, and Phantom Forces, will no longer be legal for the standard format. While there are a number of cards that will be rotated out, I have made a list of the top 20 cards that I think will be the most missed in competitive play. Without further ado, let's get to it. Number 1, Dimension Valley. Introduced in Phantom Forces, this card has been a staple in many Psychic type decks. It allowed attackers like Wobbuffet and Mega Alakazam EX to hit for a single energy. However, it saw the most play in Night March decks, making Pumpkaboo's heavy 3 energy cost attack become manageable with a single double colorless energy. Needless to say, these decks will have to adapt when the format changes this September. Number 2, Fighting Stadium and Karina. These two cards go hand in hand and together with strong energy helped comprise the fighting engine that such Pokemon as Zygarde EX and Hawlucha took advantage of since they were legal. The ability to grab a Pokemon and item from the deck at no cost is extremely powerful, and combined with low energy attackers like Hawlucha that can easily hit over 100 damage on the first turn, made these cards must-haves for any fighting type based strategy. Number 3, AZ. Players from the Heart Gold and Soul Silver era remember the supporter card known as Seeker, which made each player essentially scoop up a benched Pokemon and return it to your hand. Enter AZ. This card became a commonly played supporter because it was essentially a reusable switch card. It was also a way to heal off damage and to remove liabilities such as Shaman EX from your bench to deny prizes. Decks like Vespiquen Vileplume heavily relied on it to prevent Lysander stalls, so it will be interesting to see how these decks adapt in the near future. Number 4, Blacksmith. Before Flash Fire, many Fire-type Pokemon were simply unplayable due to high attack costs and no proper form of energy acceleration. Blacksmith changed that. Thanks to cards like Battle Compressor and Ultra Ball, getting fire energy into the discard was easy to do now, making attackers like Entei and Charizard EX completely viable and able to hit massive amounts of damage as early as the first turn. Some fire types like Flareon EX will still thrive thanks to other strategies like Reshiram's Turbo Blaze ability, but it seems that others will soon fizzle out. Number 5, Xerosic. With the dual benefit of being able to remove a tool or special energy, Xerosic came to be a one-of supporter in several decks, particularly those that struggled to beat Seismitoad Ax and Garbodor. Nick Robinson, the 2016 US National Champion, opted to play 1 in his Night March Vespiquen deck, and found great success conquering Giratina IX's special energy lock. Will this card see a reprint in the near future? Number 6, Startling Megaphone. Replacing Tool Scrapper, Startling Megaphone soon became a one-of in most competitive decks, often alongside Xerosic as a way to make sure your opponent could not keep tool cards on the board. It was especially powerful against Garbodor-based decks, though the garbage Pokemon failed to see play after its release in Breakpoint. Needless to say, with this item rotating, Ability Lock might become popular once again, and players will need to find new ways to counter it. Number 7, Super Scoop Up. A card that has seen play since the early Wizards of the Coast days, it is pretty likely that it will be reprinted later next season, but of course there are no guarantees. Similarly to AZ, it allowed you to scoop up a Pokemon, but this time on a coin flip. While this sounds bad at first, keep in mind that this is an item card, not a supporter, and it lets you keep energy and tool cards attached. It became especially popular in Seismitoad Giratina decks, allowing players to keep the item lock while continuing to tank with these bulky Pokemon EX. Number 8, Headringer. Phantom Forces brought a number of competitive cards to the format, and Headringer was one of the more interesting ones. Though the Team Flare cards did not last long, Headringer continued to see play even through 2016 Nationals, with even the US Masters finalist playing a single copy in his Seismitoad Giratina list. Making your opponent have to pay an extra energy to attack can be very disruptive, especially when paired with energy removal cards like Team Flare Grunt and Crushing Hammer. This card will certainly be missed by players of these decks. Number 9, Battle Compressor. It's no secret that many competitive players in the Pokemon TCG community debated about whether this card deserved to be banned or not, and rightfully so. Being able to thin your deck out throughout the course of the game is inherently powerful and gives you a card advantage over your opponent. More importantly, it allowed attacks like Vespiquen's Be Revenge and Night March to become overwhelmingly powerful, proving that even non-EX decks could compete in the current format. It also frequently saw play in Metal decks, allowing you to put Metal energy in the discard to use the Bronzong's Metal Link's ability for energy acceleration. Number 10, Muscle Band. Making its debut in the XY base set in 2014, Muscle Band quickly became a must-have in nearly every competitive deck. Back in the early base set days, Plus Power provided a one-time added 10 damage to Pokemon's attacks and saw frequent play. Fast forward over a decade, and Muscle Band not only took this effect, but amplified it. This single card made Seismitoad Ax's Quaking Punch a viable strategy, as its base damage was now 50 instead of a meager 30. Though Fighting Fury Belt is a suitable replacement thanks to the additional 40 HP bonus, Muscle Band will not be forgotten and will continue to shine in the expanded format. Number 11, Bronzong. Similarly to Electric back in Noble Victories, Bronzong allowed players to accelerate energy from the discard every turn and made such metal-type attackers as Genesect EX and Dialga EX tournament-worthy. Many players even opted to play Bronzong Break alongside, just because it helped the Night March matchup considerably, while also setting up for cheap late-game knockouts against Shaman EX. Without Bronzong, it will be interesting to see what strategies emerge to make cards like Genesect EX continue to see play. Number 12, Manectric and Mega Manectric EX. These two cards paired together thanks to Mega Evolution. Mega Manectric EX was the definitive concept of what Mega Pokemon should be. Its turbo attack two-shotted most Pokemon EX while accelerating any type of basic energy, and its free retreat was an added bonus. It allowed cards like Jolteon EX, Glaceon EX, and Regice to have a chance to shine in a competitive environment. In addition, it could be easily healed with cards like Max Potion and Rough Seas, and even retreat between other Mega Manectric EX on the bench to make the math unfavorable for your opponent. Number 13, Seismitoad EX. Whether you love it or hate it, most Pokemon players will agree that the giant toad made a huge impact in the format. For a single double colorless energy, it could wreck many deck strategies as early as the first turn with its devastating Quaking Punch, making your opponent unable to play item cards. It's no coincidence that it was able to help achieve a second place victory at 2016 US Nationals. While it will be rotating, it will certainly continue to see play in the expanded format thanks to cards like Hypnotoxic Laser. Number 14, Greninja. In its early days, Greninja XY was often played alongside Miltank, whose powerful friend's attack did 80 damage for a single energy if you had any Stage 2 Pokemon in play. With the release of Greninja Break, however, it became a 1 or 2 of, thanks to its useful Water Shuriken ability, allowing players to take cheap knockouts on low HP Pokemon like Joltik in Night March decks. Its Mist/Slash attack was also useful as it went through all effects, including Glaceon EX's Crystal Ray attack, which would normally prevent all damage from evolution Pokemon. Though this Greninja is rotating, it will live on through the Break version and its improved Giant Shuriken ability. Number 15, Hawlucha. As mentioned, the fighting engine allowed many fighting types to thrive in competitive play. One big example is Hawlucha. With a strong energy, muscle band, and fighting stadium, the Luchador Pokemon could hit for 120 damage early game, capable of taking out Shaman EX in a single blow. It also had free retreat and could be paired with Focus Sash to help balance out its mere 70 hit points. With the introduction of Regirock EX in Fates Collide, Hawlucha became even more powerful, but it appears that Hawlucha will soon fade out of the spotlight to let other fighting type attackers have a chance to shine. Number 16, Pyro. In 2014, Michael Promowat took second place at US Nationals with his Pyro Charizard EX deck. Though the Fury Lion has dwindled in play thanks largely in part to Hex Maniac, Pyro was hyped to see a return in play when Pyro Break was revealed. Its ability prevented basic Pokemon from damaging it, an incredible effect in a format dominated by high HP, hard-hitting basic Pokemon EX. Perhaps it will see a reprint later down the road, but for now the flame is out on this popular Lion Pokemon. Number 17, Aegislash EX. A hard counter to Night March and other decks that were reliant on special energy, Aegislash EX was easily a one-up in metal decks. Its Slash Blast attack was similar to Keldeo EX's Secret Sword, allowing for potentially unlimited damage output. With the release of Hex Maniac, essentially Ability Lock in a supporter form, Aegislash began to see less and less play. However, it was still a solid counter to Vespiquen Vileplume decks, and some players teched one in just for this matchup. With this and Xerosic rotating, it will definitely be more difficult to counter decks that focus on using special energy. Number 18, Crowbev. Initially, the bats were dismissed due to the fact that they were evolution cards, but that soon changed after seeing how powerful their abilities were. Sneaky Bite allowed players to place 2 or 3 damage counters on their opponent's Pokemon, using Golbat and Crobat respectively. Originally paired with Raichu from XY, it later became a strategy with Seismitoad Ax in the standard format as a way to counter its weak damage output. Its fighting resistance, essentially free attack with Dimension Valley in play, and free retreat made it a go-to Pokemon for players wanting a solid non-EX strategy. While Crobat will rotate out in September, Golbat will live on thanks to a recent reprint in the Generations expansion. Number 19, Aromatisse. Fairy Transfer was a popular strategy with the release of XY, especially with the reprint of Rainbow Energy. It enabled many creative strategies, one in particular being a type of fairy toolbox that incorporated attackers of various types into a single deck. It also saw play with Giratina EX briefly, as Double Dragon Energy counted as any energy type while in play. With the rotation soon to happen after the World Championships, players will now have to look at other energy transfer options like Golduck Break. Number 20, Night March. It's no surprise that I chose to finish this video with these Pokemon. The deck was able to win the 2016 US National Championships, with it swiftly taking down its seemingly worst matchup in the finals, Seismitoad Giratina EX. Because the Night March attack is dependent on the number of Night Marchers in the discard, it was not uncommon to see a 30 HP Joltik deal over 200 damage with a single double colorless energy. Adding to this number could even be increased thanks to the release of Mew and Fates Collide, effectively adding an additional attacker in the deck. Through the power of cards like Battle Compressor and Shaman EX, the deck could easily pull off massive attacks on turn 1, putting opponents in awkward positions as they went down in prizes before they could evenly get properly set up. Many players will not miss these Pokemon as they rotate, as they will enable other decks to get some of the spotlight. That said, the expanded format will continue to be black and white on, so the little spider and pumpkin will still thrive in tournament play. That'll wrap my top 20 list of cards that will be missed when the Primal Clash-on rotation drops in September. As usual, be sure to like our Facebook page in the description below, subscribe to our channel to show your support, and feel free to comment below if you think another card deserved a spot on my list. Until next time, Pokemon trainers, this has been Zach with Top Deck Nation, and I will catch you guys in the next video.